They say love can conquer all, but what happens when betrayal cuts so deep that even an unborn life is cast aside? In this dramatic saga, we journey into the twisted world of power, passion, and secret pregnancies. An ordinary woman who risked everything for a man she believed was her forever, only to find her devotion callously shattered. Years later, two uninvited visitors burst into a glossy corporate office, flipping a well-constructed life upside down. Their presence marks the return of a past thought buried and forgotten. If you're curious about the price of deceit, brace yourself. This story is about to unfold. Emily Harrison was a vibrant woman in her late 20s. Full of dreams, she had grown up in a modest home with parents who believed in the value of hard work. Her father, George Harrison, was a retired fireman in Seattle, and her mother, Nancy Harrison, had passed away when Emily was only 16. From that day on, Emily had learned the importance of self-reliance. She put herself through college studying business administration, waiting tables at a local restaurant, all the while cultivating an unquenchable desire to succeed. It was there in that bustling restaurant, tucked away on 8th Avenue, that Emily first met James Whitman, an ambitious, charismatic man with steel-gray eyes that seemed to pierce anyone he gazed upon. James was one of Seattle's rising investment hotshots, already making a name for himself at Archer and Marks Capital. He had swagger, style, and a cologne that turned heads even before he did. The moment their eyes locked, Emily felt a spark of possibility in her chest. James saw something in her too. She had a refreshing directness and a fierce, hopeful gleam in her eyes that hinted at immeasurable potential. Their attraction was immediate. Within weeks, James offered her a job interview for a receptionist position at Archer and Marks. Emily, both flattered and determined, aced the interview more from her genuine eagerness than any cunning or pretense. There she was, standing in the mirrored foyer of Archer and Marks, wearing her only good blazer, feeling her heart pound with a mix of hope and anxiety. The manager, Mark Anderson, liked her sincerity so much he not only offered her the job, but mentioned that new positions in client relations were due to open up soon, and perhaps she could train for that role. Emily was elated. As the weeks turned into months, Emily worked tirelessly, simultaneously awed by James's financial prowess. He was unstoppable, a marketing guru by day, carefully managing corporate investments and forging connections, and a socialite by night, often attending high-profile events. Emily saw him as her guiding star, someone who'd pull her out of her humble station in life and show her the shimmering skyline from the top-floor boardrooms. One evening, after a particularly busy day at the firm, James found Emily still at her desk long after everyone else had left. Intrigued, he offered to take her out for a late dinner. Over a plate of roasted salmon and a glass of Pinot Noir at a sleek waterfront restaurant, conversation flowed easily. Emily found herself opening up about her family, her dreams, and even her insecurities. James listened with genuine interest. He confided in her about his own humble beginnings, being raised by a single mother in a run-down neighborhood, and how every achievement in his life was fueled by the fear of returning to poverty. "I want to be so high up that the climb down doesn't exist," he had told her, eyes glinting. That night marked the beginning of their relationship, though it started as clandestine. Emily, new to the corporate world, was painfully aware of potential gossip if people discovered she was dating a star employee. Yet James seemed unconcerned. They spent weekends together, sometimes in a cozy coffee shop in downtown Seattle, other times in James's lavish penthouse overlooking Puget Sound. It was during these intimate moments that Emily glimpsed the man Behind the ambition, someone gentle, occasionally haunted by doubts, someone who saw her as a partner rather than just a romantic fling. Or so she believed. Their relationship flourished, or so it seemed on the surface. Emily became indispensable at Archer and Marks. With James's mentorship, she moved from receptionist to junior associate in the client relations department. Her peers admired her for her kindness, always willing to learn and help. James, on the other hand, carried a new confidence in his step, knowing he had someone supportive in his corner. They quickly became the power couple everyone whispered about at the water cooler. But behind closed doors, Emily began to sense a subtle distance growing. James often stayed late at corporate dinners without inviting her. There were hush-hush phone calls in the hallway during their private evenings, and times when Emily would find cryptic text messages on his phone, though he always had an excuse. He blamed the secrecy on client confidentiality and the demands of his role. Emily wanted desperately to believe him. After all, she felt the warmth in his eyes whenever he spoke to her about their future, about the possibility of traveling the world together. She doubted her own suspicions, attributing them to inexperience in the corporate scene. Signs of tension appeared at the office too. Rumors swirled about James's closeness with Helena Prescott, a wealthy heiress whose trust fund Archer and Marks managed. Helena, with her strawberry blonde curls and impeccably tailored suits, had a reputation for getting what she wanted, whether it was a business deal or a man. "Don't get tangled with Helena," Mark Anderson had once warned Emily. "She's a shark in designer heels." Emily shrugged it off as office gossip. She told herself that James loved her. All the while, Emily faced her father's disapproval from afar. George Harrison, a no-nonsense retired fireman, worried about his daughter's foray into the high-stakes world of finance and the flashy new crowd she was mixing with. "You got a level head on you, Em," he would say during their weekly phone calls, but careful about trusting people who only chase money. Emily would nod, even though he couldn't see her offering reassurances that James was a good man. The hush-hush phone calls continued, the late nights grew more frequent, and Emily's suspicion morphed into a gnawing pit of dread. She tried to brush it aside, focusing on the positives: her blossoming career, her love for James, and the glimpses of a future so bright that it outshone the shadows. It was a crisp autumn evening when Emily discovered she was pregnant. She had felt dizzy all morning, chalked it up to nerves or a cold. But a quick test in the office restroom confirmed what her body was telling her. Shock and joy collided in her heart. She was carrying James's child, a living testament to the future she believed they'd share. Mixed with her excitement was a stab of fear about how James would react. He was still climbing the corporate ladder, still forging alliances, still haunted by the fear of losing his position. Nevertheless, that same evening, Emily decided to share her news. She prepared a candlelit dinner at James's penthouse, wearing a modest green dress she knew he liked. Her heart pounded with a mixture of hope and trepidation. She pictured him enfolding her in his arms, promising to stand by her, maybe even proposing so they could build a family together. James arrived late, over an hour past the expected time. He looked tense, his tie loosened and his hair slightly disheveled. Immediately, Emily sensed something was off. She asked if everything was all right. He just shrugged. "Tough day at the office," he muttered, eyes darting around the living room as though scanning for hidden intruders. Gathering her courage, Emily reached for his hand. "I have something to tell you," she said, voice trembling with a potent blend of joy and anxiety. "I'm pregnant." Silence. For a moment, James's eyes widened in surprise. But instead of joy, Emily caught a flicker of something else: dismay, fear, anger. His lips parted to say something, and then he closed them again, as if rethinking his words. Emily's heart thumped. She almost wished she could take the words back, just to avoid the thundercloud forming on his face. Finally, James cleared his throat. "Pregnant," he repeated, almost spitting out the word. Are you sure?" Emily nodded, tears threatening to spill. In that moment, she desperately wanted him to wrap her in his arms, say they'd figure it out together. Instead, James paced the living room, raking his hand through his hair. This is a disaster," he said. "The timing couldn't be worse. I have an important series of meetings with potential investors next week. I was just at dinner with Helena." He stopped, realizing he'd said too much. "You were with Helena?" Emily asked, voice shaky. "I thought you'd come from the office." James waved a dismissive hand. "It's business, Emily. You wouldn't understand." Those words sliced her open. She looked at the table, the dinner she'd prepared now going cold, the candlelight flickering ominously. "What about us?" she whispered. "We'll figure things out. We can still chase our dreams, but we have to do this together." James stared at her for a long time, something tumultuous churning behind his eyes. "I can't do this," he said at last. "I have too much at stake right now." "A child?" He flinched. "A child would ruin everything. Helena wants me to partner on a project. It's crucial for my future at Archer and Marks. An unplanned pregnancy? We have to do something about it." Emily's tears spilled freely. She found the courage to speak, a quiet fury creeping into her tone. "You're asking me to end it after everything we've been through." James swallowed. I don't see another way." In that single instant, Emily felt her world tilt off its axis. Gone was the gentle, ambitious mentor she'd fallen for. In his place stood a man whose ambition trumped all else. She pulled back, pressing a protective hand against her belly. "I won't do it," she said firmly. James gave her one final look, a mix of anger and grudging respect. Then he grabbed his jacket and left the penthouse without a word, leaving Emily standing in the flickering candlelight, carrying a child, or so she thought, until later she found out it wasn't just one child, it was two. Life unraveled swiftly in the days that followed. James didn't come home. He texted her once, "We need to talk when you're calmer." But Emily ignored him. She didn't know where to begin, how to fix a shattered sense of security. It was Mark Anderson who gently informed her that James had requested a leave of absence from work for an overseas business trip with Helena. "If you need anything, Emily, let me know," Mark said. Though he kept his tone neutral, Emily could see the pity in his eyes. Through hushed office gossip, Emily learned that James and Helena were spotted together, frequently smiling at corporate events, and that Helena had insisted James take a position in a new venture. They were together, professionally, and it seemed romantically. In a matter of weeks, Emily's illusions of a future with James collapsed. She couldn't eat. She didn't sleep. Worst of all, she felt her unborn child was a burden he wanted nothing to do with. Then the final blow arrived. A courier delivered a sleek envelope to her desk one afternoon. Inside was an impersonal letter from a high-end law firm representing James Whitman. It detailed a severance arrangement, hush money for Emily if she resigned quietly, and never claimed paternal rights or child support. As she read the lines of meticulously scripted legal jargon, hot tears blurred her vision. This was James's parting gift, money to wipe her away, to keep her quiet. Crumpling the letter, she stormed out of Archer and Marks and never returned. The next day, she mustered the courage to visit a doctor for an ultrasound alone. That was when she discovered she wasn't carrying just one baby, she was carrying twins. Hearing their dual heartbeats, faint but unwavering, lit a protective fire in her. It changed her perspective. She would keep them, love them, and raise them on her own. As the weeks turned to months, she heard from James only once, a brief, sterile voicemail. "I'm sorry it turned out this way. I'll always care for you, but I've moved on. Helena is important to me now." That was all. Emily didn't respond. His words made her realize that for him love was a stepping stone or a commodity, something easily exchanged for a more advantageous deal. He had chosen the mistress, Helena, the newly minted partner, in a big investment project. Emily saw the photos circulating on social media, James in a tuxedo, Helena glimmering in a sparkly gown at a gala. Side by side, they looked perfect, wealthy, unstoppable. No mention of a pregnant ex-girlfriend, no sign of remorse. The pain cut deeper than any betrayal she'd faced, but Emily vowed never to let it break her spirit. She had her unborn children to think about. With her father's encouragement, she moved to a small suburb, took a job at a local insurance company's customer service department, and prepared to face motherhood on her own terms. If James wanted to bury his past, so be it. But that wouldn't stop Emily from forging a new path, one guided not by ambition, but by unwavering love for her babies. Raising twins was both a monumental challenge and a profound joy. Emily named her children Lucas and Lily. From the moment they entered the world, Lucas loud and demanding, Lily curious and sweet, Emily's life found a new center of gravity. She settled into a small two-bedroom apartment with a cozy kitchen and a bright living room that overlooked a community park. It wasn't the penthouse, it wasn't glamorous, but it was safe and warm. Financially, things were tough. Despite her education, Emily found it difficult to secure a high-paying job while juggling the demands of two newborns. She took a remote administrative role at a small marketing firm owned by Patricia Green, an empathetic older woman who admired Emily's tenacity. "Your babies come first," Patricia often said, allowing Emily flexible hours. The job didn't pay much, but it covered rent, groceries, and the little things Lucas and Lily needed. George Harrison, Emily's father, was her rock. Although his health had started to decline, he frequently visited to help with the children. He would cradle Lily in one arm, Lucas in the other, telling them stories of his days as a fireman. Emily often watched through the doorway, her heart swelling with gratitude. She promised herself she'd make sure her children lacked nothing in terms of love. Meanwhile, she made no effort to contact James. She had contemplated informing him about the birth of twins, but every time she considered it, she remembered his harsh words and that cold, legal letter. If he wanted no part in their lives, fine. She wouldn't beg. Though her heart still carried the wounds of betrayal, her everyday routine of diaper changes, feedings, and bedtime lullabies left little room for lingering regrets. Life moved on, and so did she. Yet there were moments, especially late at night, when Emily's thoughts returned to James. She couldn't help but wonder if he ever thought of her, if he ever imagined holding Lucas and Lily in his arms. On her darkest nights, she'd quietly whisper to the universe that maybe, just maybe, James would have a change of heart and realize what he had lost. But morning would come, and the harsh light of day would remind her James had left her for Helena, ignoring the pregnancy and all the responsibilities it entailed. Life was not a fairy tale. 3 years flew by. Lucas and Lily, now energetic toddlers, filled Emily's days with chaos and laughter. They had James's penetrating grey eyes, which sometimes made her stomach clench with memory. She poured her love into them, determined that they'd never feel an absence in their lives. George Harrison continued to support them, though his health had begun to waver with each passing month. One summer, a chance meeting altered Emily's trajectory yet again. She was strolling with the twins in the local park when she ran into Mark Anderson, her former manager from Archer and Marks. Dressed casually in jeans and a polo shirt, Mark was pushing his own toddler on the swing. They recognized each other instantly. "Emily, goodness. I heard you left the firm, but I never got details." "How have you been, Mark?" exclaimed eyes darting down to the twins. "These must be your kids. Wow, they're beautiful." Emily felt her cheeks flush, but a sense of warmth filled her. She told him briefly about her new job and how life had taken unexpected turns. Mark listened sympathetically, a trace of regret crossing his features. "You know," he said finally, "James told everyone you moved on to a better job out of state. Nobody knew the truth. If we had, we might have done something." At the mention of James, Emily's jaw tightened. She glanced at Lucas and Lily, who were giggling in the playground sandbox, completely oblivious to the complicated adult world. "It's all in the past, Mark. I'm fine now," she insisted, though her voice wavered. "I have everything I need." Mark nodded. "You deserve better, Emily. But let me say, if you ever want a new opportunity, we can talk. I've left Archer and Marks and started my own investment consulting firm. I could use someone with your skills." Emily smiled, touched by the offer. "I appreciate that, Mark. Let me think it over." They parted ways, exchanging numbers. That night, Emily could hardly sleep, her mind swirling with the prospect of stepping back into the financial world. She'd always been ambitious. Perhaps motherhood had placed that ambition on hold, but it had never extinguished it. Eventually, she decided to accept Mark's offer. Within weeks, she found herself juggling her time between being a mother of two and spearheading client relations at Mark's budding company, Anderson and Partners. The work was demanding client meetings, phone calls, spreadsheets, but it ignited her passion. She began to attend local conferences, sharpen her professional skills, and for the first time in years felt a renewed sense of purpose. The more she excelled at her job, the more confident she became. People noticed her intelligence and her empathetic approach to clients, which provided a refreshing alternative to the cutthroat strategies of bigger firms like Archer and Marks. "We're building a business on integrity, not just profit," Mark said proudly. Emily often wondered what James would think if he saw her now, a single mother, thriving despite everything. Yet that world was small, and rumors began to surface that James Whitman and Helena Prescott's grand partnership had unraveled in a very public, very expensive legal battle. Something about missing funds, questionable deals, and a meltdown that ended with Helena's father withdrawing his fortune from Archer and Marks. Gossip indicated that James nearly lost his career in the fallout. But it was all hearsay. Emily tried not to pay attention. She had her own life to live. It happened on an unremarkable Tuesday morning. Emily, now 32, had just finalized a deal with a local startup when her phone buzzed. It was Mark, his voice excited. "Emily, we've got an urgent lead. Robert Schultz, a well-connected investor, wants us to pitch him a portfolio plan. Can you come down to the Westin Hotel's conference room at noon?" Always up for a challenge, Emily quickly arranged childcare for Lucas and Lily, who were now 5 years old, and drove downtown. Dressed in a charcoal pencil skirt and a crisp white blouse, she stepped into the luxurious hotel lobby, her heels clicking on the marble floor. She was used to nerves, used to high-stakes meetings, but nothing prepared her for the moment she saw him. James Whitman, standing at the far end of the lobby, talking to the hotel receptionist. Her heart clenched, as if caught in a vice. She had steeled herself over the years, convinced she was over him. But the sight of those grey eyes, that same confident posture, threatened to tear open old wounds. She clutched her briefcase more tightly, turning away, hoping he wouldn't see her. But fate had other plans. James pivoted, scanning the lobby for someone, and their gazes collided. For a second time, seemed to stand still. Emily saw a flicker of recognition in James's eyes, surprise, maybe even regret. He took a tentative step forward, parted his lips as if to speak, but she had already turned on her heel, heading for the conference rooms as quickly as her dignity allowed. That afternoon, Emily delivered her pitch to Robert Schultz with poise and grace, refusing to let James's presence rattle her. She closed the deal successfully. Mark clapped her on the back, praising her skill. But as soon as the meeting ended, she slipped out, wanting to avoid any chance of crossing paths with James again. Her emotions were a tangled knot: resentment, heartbreak, and a tiny, unbidden surge of longing that she instantly squashed. Unbeknownst to her, James had witnessed enough to be intrigued. He inquired about her from the hotel staff, discovered she was with Anderson and Partners. The next day, Emily received a text from an unknown number. "You looked amazing. I miss you. Can we talk, James?" She stared at the screen, heart pounding, before deleting the message without replying. Life took another sharp turn as Lucas and Lily began kindergarten. Like most 5-year-olds, they were inquisitive, brimming with questions. Their teacher, Ms. Monroe, adored their bright smiles and quick minds. But Emily knew the day was coming when they'd ask about their father. She'd always been honest with them, to an extent, explaining that Daddy lives far away and can't be with us right now. It was only a partial truth, but she wasn't ready to deluge them with the painful details of James's abandonment. One afternoon, Lucas scampered into the living room, clutching a drawing he'd made at school, a stick-figure family with 3 people. "Mummy, this is you, me and Lily," he explained. But Miss Monroe asked why I didn't draw a daddy. Lily, who was playing with building blocks, looked up. "We need a daddy, right?" Emily's chest tightened. She knelt down, stroking Lucas's curly hair. "Some families have just a mommy, some have 2 mommies, some have a mummy and a daddy, or none at all. Families can look different. We have each other, and that's what matters," she said gently. But she could see the confusion in her children's eyes. Even at 5, they felt a missing piece. That night, after tucking them into bed, Emily stood by their door listening to their quiet conversation. Lily asked Lucas, "Do you think our daddy's a superhero or a movie star?" Lucas replied, "Maybe he's just busy, but I hope he'll come see us one day." Emily bit her lip, tears gathering. She wanted so badly to protect them from the heartbreak she'd endured. But she also knew she couldn't shield them forever. A few weeks later, Emily's phone rang while she was tidying up the kitchen. The caller ID read James Whitman. She froze, her pulse pounding. She'd never saved his number, but she recognized it from that one text he'd sent. Against her better judgment, she answered. "Emily," James's voice murmured, "thank you for picking up. Please don't hang up." A storm of emotions swirled inside her. She wanted to slam the phone down, but curiosity took hold. "Make it quick," she said coldly. There was a brief silence, then a deep exhale. "I know I don't deserve your time or your forgiveness," he began. "But I can't go on pretending you never existed. I see how successful you've become. You've changed, Em. And I need to talk to you face to face." Emily balled her free hand into a fist. "It's been 6 years, James. There's nothing left to say." James hesitated. "I was a coward. I made selfish choices. But I want to make it right. I've heard rumors that you had children." His voice was shaky, laced with vulnerability. "Are they mine?" Emily's breath caught. Anger flooded her. "You forfeited the right to ask that question when you tried to pay me off to get rid of them," she hissed. "Yes, James, you have twins, Lucas and Lily, but they are my children now, not yours." James sounded stunned, as if he'd half expected, but never fully faced that reality. "I want to see them. Please, if you let me, I'll do whatever it takes." Tears stung Emily's eyes. She recalled the nights she spent alone, the heartbreak, the single motherhood. "I'll think about it," she managed to say before ending the call. For days, she mulled over his request. Part of her wanted to protect her children from James's potential letdowns. Another part recognized that Lucas and Lily had a right to know their father if he was willing to show up earnestly this time. Finally, she agreed to meet with James alone in a public setting to gauge his sincerity before making any decisions about him meeting the twins. They met in a quiet cafe near the waterfront. Emily arrived first, wearing a burgundy blouse and dark jeans, a deliberate effort to project confidence. James entered moments later, looking older, but still undeniably handsome. There were faint lines around his eyes, and a humility in his posture she hadn't seen before. He approached the table, cautiously extending a hand in greeting. She didn't take it, and he let it drop, with a regretful nod. They ordered coffee, black for James, a latte for Emily. For a moment, neither spoke, tension thickening the air. Finally, James cleared his throat. "Thank you for seeing me. You look well." Emily sipped her latte, her gaze guarded. "I am well. What do you want, James?" His shoulders sagged. "I've had time to regret everything, to see how I chose power and fleeting luxury over what truly matters. Helena, that whole relationship was a sham, a business arrangement that turned toxic. She left me in ruins financially and emotionally. I lost a good portion of my stake at Archer and Marks. I spent a year picking up the pieces." Emily raised an eyebrow, unimpressed. "I'm sorry for your troubles, but that doesn't erase what you did to me or to Lucas and Lily." James flinched at their names. "I know. I was wrong. I was foolish. But I want to be in their lives. Please, Emily, let me meet them." She studied him, recalling how he had abandoned her in her most vulnerable moment. "Why now?" she demanded. "Is this about guilt? A midlife crisis? What can you possibly offer them? Besides more heartbreak?" James swallowed hard. "I'm not the same man I was. I don't expect you to believe me right away, but I need a chance to show I've changed. I'm stable now, working at a smaller firm. I've spent years reflecting on the mistakes I made. I want to support you and the twins emotionally, financially, whatever you'll allow." Emily stared into her coffee, her emotions waging war inside. She saw sincerity in his eyes, but trust wasn't something she could hand over lightly. "The twins have never known you. They've never even asked for you specifically, but they do wonder why they don't have a father. I can't decide this alone. I need time. If I let you meet them, it has to be on my terms. And if you hurt them, James, I swear there will be no second chances." A wave of relief washed over James's face. "I understand," he whispered. "I'll do whatever it takes." It took 2 more months before Emily felt comfortable arranging a short, supervised meeting at a local children's museum. She explained to Lucas and Lily, now nearly 6, that this was their father, someone who hadn't been around before, but wanted to get to know them. Naturally, the children had questions. "Where has he been? Does he love us?" Emily answered as best she could, without sugarcoating or poisoning their minds against him. The day of the meeting was bright and sunny. The museum echoed with the laughter of children, running from one interactive exhibit to the next. James arrived early, wearing a simple blue polo and slacks, holding a small plush toy bunny in one hand and a stuffed dinosaur in the other. Emily approached cautiously, Lucas and Lily at her side. The twins hovered behind her legs, shy and uncertain. James knelt down. "Hi, Lucas. Hi, Lily," he said softly. "I'm your dad. I brought these for you." Lucas stared for a moment, then reached for the dinosaur. Lily timidly took the bunny. Neither spoke. Emily watched them, her heart pounding. She had no idea how this would turn out. They spent the afternoon exploring the exhibits. James was surprisingly gentle, asking the twins about their favorite colors, what they liked to eat, what games they enjoyed. Slowly, Lily warmed up, giggling, as James helped her build a tower out of foam blocks. Lucas was more hesitant, but by the day's end, he allowed James to push him on a play swing. Emily observed from a short distance, tears stinging her eyes. The children deserved a father figure, someone who would protect and guide them. She saw a flicker of true remorse in James's interactions, a tenderness she had once known, but thought lost forever. When it was time to go, Lily clung to James's leg, not wanting to leave. Lucas, though quieter, reached out to pat James's arm. James crouched down, looking into their identical grey eyes. "I hope I can see you again soon," he said, voice thick with emotion. Emily swallowed hard, feeling the weight of the decision that lay ahead. Despite the tentative success of that first meeting, things weren't magically fixed. James wanted more visits, texting Emily for updates on the kids. Emily remained guarded, mindful that he had once abandoned them. Yet her children seemed excited whenever their father was mentioned. Lucas drew pictures of a tall man with grey eyes, labeling him Daddy. Lily cartwheeled around the house after each visit, rambling on about how Daddy showed her magic tricks or bought her a shiny new coloring set. But as James's presence grew, so did the echoes of the past. George Harrison, Emily's father, was wary. When James finally met him, George's handshake was stiff. "Don't think for a second I'll forgive you for what you did," he growled in a low voice. James accepted the blow, lowering his gaze. Emily felt torn between her father's protectiveness and the twins' blossoming joy at having a dad in their lives. Beyond family dynamics, rumors circulated. Some old associates from Archer and Marks cast suspicious eyes on James's about-face. They whispered that he was bankrupt, looking for a convenient way back into society through Emily's new connections. Emily tried not to let these stories influence her, but found herself growing anxious. She questioned James outright. "Are you struggling financially? Is that why you're suddenly so interested in us?" James looked hurt. "I'm rebuilding my life, that's true, but this isn't about money. I'm not after your sympathy or your help. I just want to be part of the children's lives." Still, old scars run deep. Emily wrestled with trust issues. She woke in the night, worried that James might vanish again, leaving Lucas and Lily devastated. Every kind gesture from him was met with silent scrutiny. For his part, James tried to be consistent, attending Lily's dance recital, cheering at Lucas's soccer practice, even offering to help pay for medical checkups. Slowly, Emily allowed a tentative hope to spark within her. Maybe people really could change. Meanwhile, Emily's career continued to soar. Anderson and Partners secured bigger clients, and Emily's role expanded. She found herself fielding calls from potential investors, scheduling pitches in cities beyond Seattle. At one such pitch meeting in Portland, she was stunned to discover the prospective client's representative was none other than Helena Prescott. Dressed in a sleek grey suit, Helena oozed confidence, her strawberry blonde curls pinned back in a tight bun. Helena recognized Emily, an icy smile stretching across her lips. "Emily Harrison," she said. "Fancy meeting you here. Still in the finance game, I see, and quite successfully from what I've heard." Her gaze flickered to the engagement ring, glittering on her own finger, no doubt, from some new wealthy fiancé. "Though I guess you're lacking certain advantages these days." The barb was obvious. Emily refused to be rattled. She delivered her presentation flawlessly, ignoring Helena's condescending smirks. After the meeting, Helena cornered her in the hallway. "So how is James?" she asked, feigning casual interest. "I heard he's had a rough couple of years. I bet he's crawling back to you now that he's short on options." Emily squared her shoulders. "What James does is none of your concern." Helena laughed, a sharp, hollow sound. "Oh, but it is. After all, he once begged me to invest in a project that ended up failing. Poor James, always wanting something he can't maintain. If I were you, I'd watch my back. He's charming, but he's always looking for the next big score." Bracing herself, Emily met Helena's mocking gaze. "Whatever our past, James is the father of my children. And that's all you need to know." She walked away, refusing to let Helena see even a hint of weakness. Still, Helena's words gnawed at her. Doubts resurfaced, swirling like a dark cloud. One morning, James reached out to Emily with a surprising invitation. "The kids have never seen where I work. Why don't I give them a small tour of my office? I'll keep it brief, promise." Against her better judgment, Emily relented. Lucas and Lily were excited at the prospect of seeing Daddy's workplace. Perhaps, she reasoned, this could be a step toward normalizing their father's presence. James worked at a modest financial firm, now Jacobs and Rayner, a far cry from Archer and Marks's opulence. The building was still sleek, but not ostentatious. James greeted them in the lobby, kneeling to high-five Lucas and Lily, who squealed with delight. He guided them through the glass doors into a bustling, open-plan office dotted with cubicles and potted plants. Rows of employees typed on computers, took calls, and occasionally glanced at the newcomers. Suddenly, there was an uproar at one corner of the office. A man in a grey suit, one of the firm's senior partners, was scowling at a sheaf of papers, his voice cutting through the hum of background chatter. "This is unacceptable," he barked. "Get me Whitman." James paled. "Stay here," he muttered to Emily, handing her a half-apologetic, half-nervous look before striding over. Emily quietly ushered Lucas and Lily to a nearby waiting area. She could see James conversing with the senior partner, eyebrows knitted in tension. The commotion drew the curious stares of employees. Some whispered among themselves, pointing discreetly. Emily felt her pulse quicken. She strained to catch bits of the argument, missing funds delay in accounts urgent matter. Her mind raced back to Helena's warning about James's financial troubles. A knot formed in her stomach. Eventually, James returned, forcing a reassuring smile. "I'm sorry," he said, voice tight. "Things are just a bit hectic. Let's check out the break room, huh, kids?" Lucas and Lily, oblivious to the tension, eagerly nodded. Emily followed her mind, reeling with questions. Was James involved in something shady again? Or was this simply a corporate hiccup? She didn't ask until they were leaving. As the four of them stepped onto the sidewalk, James let out a heavy sigh. "I apologize for the scene," he murmured. "We've had some technical issues with our investment software, and a few accounts are out of sync. Nothing major, I promise." Emily searched his eyes. "I hope not," she said softly, glancing at Lucas and Lily, who were busy comparing who had the bigger handful of complimentary candies from the office. "Because I won't let them get hurt, James. Keep that in mind." James gave a curt nod, guilt flickering across his features. "Understood." Days later, Emily was working late in her home office, poring over spreadsheets for Anderson and Partners, when her phone beeped with a text from Mark Anderson urgent. "Need to talk now." Alarmed, she called him. Mark's voice was hushed but panicked. "Emily, we have a major problem. We're under investigation for unauthorized transactions connected to Jacobs and Rayner, where James works. Some accounts we manage overlap with them. We've been flagged." Emily's heart plummeted. "What? How? I only handle client relations. I haven't made any direct transactions with Jacobs and Rayner." "Exactly, which is why I'm confused. Someone's name in their system is suspiciously close to yours. We need to figure this out fast, or we risk losing clients." Emily spent the night in frantic research, scanning through documents, making phone calls. By morning, she had pieced together a disturbing puzzle. Someone at Jacobs and Rayner had authorized trades and withdrawals using a name nearly identical to hers, Emily R. Harrison, while her legal name was Emily A. Harrison. A simple but significant discrepancy. The transactions were questionable, funneled into an offshore account that was now under scrutiny. Crestfallen, Emily realized that James might be at the center of this fiasco, or at least entangled in it. The next day, she confronted him. They met in a secluded corner of a coffee shop. Emily slapped a folder of documents onto the table, her eyes blazing. "Explain this," she demanded. James's face turned ashen as he flipped through the pages. I don't know," he stammered. "I never made these transfers. Someone must be framing me, or framing you." Emily scoffed, tears burning in her eyes. "You expect me to believe that, after everything you've done, after Helena's warnings, after the meltdown at your office?" James gripped the folder, knuckles white. "Emily, I swear I'm being set up. I tried to do the right thing. But someone is sabotaging me. Maybe an old rival, or maybe Helena's people. I don't know. I'd never involve your name in shady deals." Part of her wanted to believe him, but her trust had already been shattered once. "I'm telling you this. If you drag me or my children into a legal mess, I will never forgive you. I'll disappear, James, and you'll never see Lucas and Lily again." Desperation lined James's face. "Don't do that. Give me a chance to prove I'm innocent. Please, Emily." She stormed out, leaving him alone with the damning evidence. Time was running out for Emily and Mark. The investigation escalated. Mark's bank accounts were frozen, and Emily's name was flagged. Clients began withdrawing their funds from Anderson and Partners to avoid getting entangled in scandal. Their once promising firm was teetering on the brink. In the midst of this chaos, Helena Prescott reappeared, reaching out to Emily with a proposition. "I have influence at Jacobs and Rayner," she purred over the phone, "and at Archer and Marks too. If you want this investigation to go away, we should talk." Emily felt a chill at Helena's tone, but desperation forced her to consider any lifeline. They met in the upscale lounge of the W Hotel downtown. Helena greeted Emily with a calculating smile, swirling a martini in her hand. "You know I've had no reason to like you," she began, "but I do like strong women. And from what I've heard, you've built quite a reputation on your own." Emily frowned, wary of Helena's praise. "What do you want?" Helena set her martini down. "Let's be honest. James is my real concern. He owes me, in more ways than one. There's a chunk of money he promised me during our business fiasco that I never recovered. I suspect he's been moving money around through Jacobs and Rayner to hide assets. If you're caught in the crossfire, that's regrettable, but not my problem, unless you help me." Emily's mind reeled. "And how would I help you?" Helena leaned in. "Find evidence that James took or diverted my funds, and I'll make the investigation into you and your firm disappear. I have connections, powerful ones." Emily swallowed, a wave of disgust rising in her throat. You're asking me to betray James? Helena laughed low and mocking. Betray him, darling. He betrayed you years ago. Now you can either take him down or watch your world collapse once again. Emily sat silently, her thoughts a whirlwind. Finally, she spoke, voice trembling with anger and grief. You have no idea what this will do to my children. Helena gave a dismissive shrug. Collateral damage, my dear. Helena's proposition tore at Emily's conscience. On one hand, she feared James was deceiving her again, jeopardizing her family's livelihood. On the other, she saw a glimmer of the man who had tried to reconnect with his children, who'd seemed genuine about fatherhood. Could he truly have stooped so low again? Mark urged Emily to accept Helena's offer. We're drowning here, he pointed out. If we don't get out of this investigation soon, our company is finished. And you, Emily, could face legal consequences. Late at night, Emily paced the length of her living room, heart pounding, as she thought of Lucas and Lily asleep in their rooms. If she accepted Helena's offer and uncovered evidence against James, she'd be safe, but her children's father would likely go to prison, or at least face ruin. If she refused, her career and Mark's firm might be destroyed, and her own future was uncertain at best. Unable to sleep, she called James. He answered on the third ring, sounding weary. Emily, is everything okay? No. James, everything is not okay, she said, voice thick with emotion. Helena wants me to incriminate you. She claims you stole her money. If I do it, the investigation goes away. If I don't, I could lose my job, my reputation, everything. Silence. Then James's breath hitched. She's lying, he said quietly. Emily, I swear I'm innocent. She's the one who manipulated funds, not me. She probably set up that fake account in your name too. She wants to pit us against each other. Desperation welled up inside her. Why should I believe you? You lied to me once. You left me pregnant and alone. Why should I risk my future for you? James paused, then pleaded. Because I've changed. Because I love our children. And because I'm telling the truth. Something Helena doesn't know how to do. Emily's voice broke. I don't know what to do, she whispered. He answered in a calm, determined tone. Let's expose her. Together. In the days that followed, Emily and James formed an uneasy alliance. They spent late nights combing through records. James, using his inside knowledge of Jacob's and Rayner's systems, identified subtle anomalies that pointed to outside interference, someone using Helena's credentials to shift money around. Emily, leveraging her connections at Anderson and Partners, traced transactions back to shell companies suspiciously tied to Helena's old network. Each piece of evidence inched them closer to the truth. Along the way, James opened up to Emily in ways he never had before. I was so blinded by ambition, he admitted one night as they huddled over a laptop in Emily's living room, the twins fast asleep upstairs. Helena was like a gateway to a world of wealth I thought I needed. But after she squeezed me dry, I realized none of it mattered. I lost the only people who truly cared about me. Emily eyed him warily, but saw genuine regret etched in his face. You caused a lot of damage, she replied softly. He nodded. I know. And I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make it right. It was a fragile, tentative truce, one forged in necessity. Emily remained cautious. The wound of his past betrayal could never fully vanish. But as they sifted through receipts and bank logs, she found a new understanding of James. They were older now, battered by life. If nothing else, they shared a common goal: protect themselves and their children from Helena's machinations. Armed with irrefutable evidence, Emily arranged a surprise meeting with Helena at the same upscale lounge. Helena arrived all smug confidence, expecting Emily to deliver information incriminating James. Instead, Emily calmly handed her a folder filled with documents that connected Helena to the fraudulent offshore accounts. Helena's face turned stony, her composure cracking. "What is this?" she spat, flipping through the pages. "You've made a grave mistake, Emily." Emily didn't flinch. "No, Helena. You made the mistake, manipulating financial systems, forging my name. Did you think we wouldn't find out?" Teeth clenched. Helena snapped the folder shut. "What do you want?" James emerged from the shadows, stepping forward. "We want you to call off the investigation. Withdraw any false claims against Emily and Mark Anderson. And we want written confessions of your wrongdoing. If you do that, we'll keep this evidence out of the public eye for now." Helena's eyes flared with hatred. "You can't threaten me. My family has power." James's jaw tightened. "So did you think 6 years ago? How did that work out?" His gaze flickered to Emily. "We're giving you a choice. Do the right thing or face a legal and financial nightmare yourself." Trapped, Helena surrendered. She reluctantly agreed to contact her associates at Archer and Marks, Jacobs and Rayner, and the relevant authorities to clear Emily and Anderson and partners of any wrongdoing. She also penned a private statement confessing her scheme to frame James in hopes of extorting money and punishing him for leaving her. The bitterness in her expression was palpable as she signed the papers. Emily collected them, her hands shaking with relief. "This isn't over," Helena hissed before storming out. Emily suspected Helena would resurface eventually, but for now, the immediate threat was neutralized. With Helena's confession in hand, the investigation into Emily and Mark's firm dissolved almost overnight. Their clients returned impressed by the firm's transparency and resilience under pressure. Anderson and partners even gained new business from investors who saw them as a principled alternative to the corruption at larger firms. James, vindicated, regained some measure of professional respect, though Jacobs and Rayner was reluctant to rehire him after the scandal. Several smaller firms approached him with job offers. He also began paying child support for Lucas and Lily unasked as a gesture of responsibility. Emily accepted the payments, relieved that the twins would have more financial stability. Slowly, tentatively, Emily let James be more involved in the children's lives. Weekend visits became a routine. James learned how to cook scrambled eggs without burning them. He showed up at Lucas's soccer games, cheering louder than anyone. He attended Lily's ballet recitals, eyes brimming with pride as she twirled on stage. George Harrison remained cautious, but seeing how happy the children were, softened his stance. One afternoon, Emily found George and James chatting in the backyard, discussing lawn care and the upcoming local Little League schedules. It wasn't exactly friendship, but it was civility enough for Emily to exhale a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Months passed. Lucas and Lily turned 7, celebrating with a party in Emily's modest backyard, balloons and confetti swirling in the breeze. James was there helping grill burgers and toss water balloons. Emily watched from the porch, a blend of emotions swirling inside her. She'd come so far from the frightened woman left alone in a penthouse. She was stronger now, accomplished, and most importantly, a loving mother of 2 spirited children. After the guests left and twilight settled, James lingered to help clean up. Once the yard was tidy, they sat on the porch steps, the faint sound of the children giggling inside. James cleared his throat. "I've been thinking about us," he said. "We've gone through a lot." Emily nodded. "Yes, we have." He met her gaze, eyes dark with longing. "I don't expect to be forgiven overnight, but I want you to know that if there's even a sliver of a chance, I'm all in." Her heart pounded. For so long, she had guarded it, convinced James was a lost cause. But recent events showed a man capable of self-reflection, capable of stepping up for his family. Yet trust was fragile, and she had two little hearts to protect. She placed her hand over his gently. "I can't promise anything right now," she murmured. "I need more time. But I see the effort you're making with Lucas and Lily, and that means a lot." James exhaled, slowly, relief and respect shining in his grey eyes. "Then I'll wait however long it takes." Rebuilding trust wasn't easy, but Emily chose cautious hope over permanent walls. James, humbled and steady, became a present father, attending school events, coaching soccer, and easing into bedtime routines. Though Emily kept her own space, she acknowledged his consistency. Helena faded from their lives, her schemes dissolved, and her power dimmed. Emily's career soared, and Mark's firm expanded, while Lucas and Lily thrived in a home filled with stability and love. Each quiet evening, as Emily watched her children sleep, she reflected on how far they had come from heartbreak and betrayal to growth and redemption. Whether she and James ever fully rekindled their romance mattered less than the family they had managed to rebuild. In the end, what began in loss became a story of grace, resilience, and second chances. Emily embraced her new life on her own terms, with strength, with love, and with a future brighter than she ever imagined. And so, from heartbreak to healing, our story proves the road to redemption is never a straight line. Emily Harrison spurned and left to raise twins alone, refused to let betrayal define her or her children's future. James Whitman, blinded by ambition, discovered true wealth wasn't measured by bank balances, but by the innocent laughter of a son and daughter who chose to love him despite his past. As you reflect on this journey, one brimming with twists, heartache, and unexpected triumph, remember that second chances can blossom even in the darkest shadows. If this story moved you, if it made you believe in the power of resilience and forgiveness, please show your support by liking this video, sharing it with friends who need inspiration, and subscribing to our channel. Together, let's continue revealing the stories that prove love and hope can outshine any betrayal.